I wanted to discuss how sometimes life can feel like such a drag if you're only looking forward to the next big thing that you have going on. And you aren't really sitting and enjoying your present moment because you're so fixated on your next goal or that next big trip you have planned. And when we do that, we're not really focusing on our present and enjoying those small moments that bring us a lot of joy. And if you think about it, life is actually made up more of those small moments. And of course, those small moments are different for everyone, but it's really important to recognize that and appreciate those small moments we have. And these small moments can be so different for different people, but we wanted to share with you what our small moments are and the small things we do in our life that bring us a lot of joy.
Now, I've definitely mentioned it before, but I love cooking. It's such a relaxing process for me, and it really just makes me feel so excited to put together all these ingredients and find a cool recipe or make my own recipe and make like a good meal out of it. Whether it's healthy or not, sometimes it's just for the whole process of cooking, and it's just a really relaxing way for me to unwind, especially at the end of like a long work day or on the weekends when I have a little more time to make like a more elaborate meal. But it just makes me so excited and so happy. And I actually love cooking for other people more than I like cooking for just myself sometimes, because I see other people enjoy the meal and appreciate my efforts. So it's really nice to share all that hard work with someone else when I'm cooking for other people too. But since I live alone, usually I'm just cooking for one, and it's still really fun. And I just love, putting on some music in the background or a good podcast and just jamming out and vibing with myself while I'm cooking. And sometimes I will mess up, sometimes it won't turn out perfect, but it's just the whole process of just making that nourishing meal for myself, and it feels creative in a sense too. So that's something that I really make time for in my day, and it's something so small, and of course all of us have to eat at the end of the day. So just making that time to cook myself meals whenever I can is a little thing that really makes me happy and brings me joy.
Now, I'm a huge sucker for nature, but I would like to caveat that by mentioning that when I say I like nature, I mean like parks in a city or like the sunrise and the sunset. Because I grew up in big cities, so for a lot of people, nature is like wildlife nature, going hiking in the wildlife, but that's not something I grew up around. So for me, my idea of nature is like a nice park in the middle of a city. And I feel like parks in cities kind of have a very special feel to it, because it can be like a refuge from the hustle and bustle, but at the same time, you're still in the city and you still have the conveniences around you. So you could be walking in the park and you might feel like getting coffee, or you might feel like eating something. You can quickly go and get that. And honestly, for me, nature is probably one of the most jaw-dropping kinds of beauty we have. And when I see something in nature that really catches my eye, I love just looking at it, love taking pictures of it, and just really enjoying what nature has given us.
So if you know me, you know I love coffee, and even though that's something that so many people just take for granted in their mornings and just see it as another chore that they have to do, for me, because I'm so passionate about making different types of coffee and trying different recipes and playing around with it a little bit, that's something that I look forward to every day, and it's something that brings me a lot of joy as well. So I recently bought an espresso machine, so I've been able to be a little more creative with the kinds of drinks I'm making, and sometimes copy other coffee shops or Starbucks recipes and just play around with it a little bit. And more often than not, I usually make coffee for the sake of the experience and the sake of the routine rather than for the caffeine itself like most people do. But it's a whole experience for me, and it's its own little thing that brings me joy and makes me smile in the morning and makes me feel so at peace and calm with my routine.
So another thing that brings me a lot of joy is just exploring the city, trying out new cafes, trying out new restaurants, and I love checking out new stores. And personally, I'm a huge cafe gal, but I'm not necessarily a coffee lover, but I love the vibe of a cafe. I feel like it's so inducive to just like good conversations with your friends. So if I'm out with a friend, I love just grabbing a nice latte and sitting down and just catching up on everything. That to me, it brings me a lot of joy. Now the area I live in has a lot of small businesses, a lot of cute boutique stores, and there are new ones popping up all the time. So I don't exactly like shopping. It's not like every time I go to a store, I'll buy something, but I love just checking out what's there because it kind of helps me familiarize myself with the city and helps me feel more integrated and part of the city, especially if I'm new to the place.
Another small thing that brings me a lot of joy and makes me feel so happy every day is just a cozy, calm environment. And I don't know if that's because I'm a Taurus moon, so I really like that sense of comfort, that sense of coziness in my surroundings. And it kind of ties into like cleanliness and having my home be clean and having my space be organized. But it's also a little more on top of that and adding those little extra luxuries or little extra comforts, whether it's like lighting a candle or wrapping myself in a cozy blanket or just sinking myself into the bed at the end of a long day and just feeling how good and comforting that feels. And that's become a part of like my routine as well, whether it's in the morning or whether it's at night, just surrounding myself in those comforts and that coziness. So sometimes I'll just take like a warm drink and read a good book and light a candle and put on some jazz music in the background, and that just helps me feel so calm and so peaceful. And it's my favorite part of my routine if I can make time for it. And it's just so relaxing and makes me feel so good. And to some people, it's probably just like living out your normal life and just sitting down on a couch and reading a book. But for me, creating that ambiance and creating that sense of coziness and warmth, it really adds that little extra sense of happiness and joy.
So I personally find an organized space to be so calming and peaceful. I love seeing my books stacked up nicely on the shelf. I love having my coats cleaned and hung in order. But I also love having plants in my space because I feel like it really adds to that calm and serene vibe. So my space can be very clean and organized, but if there are no plants or if there's no greenery, it just does not feel the same to me. And for some other people, a clean and organized space can mean something totally different. So it really depends on what your definition of a clean and organized space looks like.
Another thing that brings me joy is just putting my head down and working on something that I'm so passionate about and really getting into that flow state. And that flow state just feels so good and so productive, especially if you've ever just lost track of time while you're working on something or been so engulfed in a task that you forgot about your surroundings and everyone around you. That's what flow state feels like. And when you're really using that to work on something you're passionate about, work on something creative, or work on something that's good for you, it feels so good and it makes you so happy, not just in the moment, but especially after the fact, when you're looking back and thinking of everything you accomplished and thinking of how good and light you feel, just letting it all out and letting all the productivity flow out of you. And it's not always even about productivity. Sometimes it's just that source of inspiration that just randomly strikes you and you just have to get your thoughts down on paper, or you have to just go call someone and tell them. So it really just feels so good and happy in the moment. And even if it's not like career-wise or like achievement oriented, just being so involved and being so passionate about whatever it is that you're doing feels really good in the long run, not just in the moment. So that's something that I really find helps me just appreciate the moment and the task that I'm doing, especially if it's like a creative thing or something I'm passionate about, like filming these YouTube videos. That's something that really brings me joy and something I look forward to my whole day. So we hope you guys enjoyed learning about the little things that make us happy and the small joys in life that can really add to your overall quality of life and well-being. And let us know if there is something in your life that you do that makes you happy and you think others could benefit from as well. And thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!